pattern here, which is based on some of my younger son's football. He was in flag football. So, I hope that's a good basis for what you're trying to get out of it. By all means, ask questions and take me where you want to go. So with that, let me show you what I've done. I've come to PowerChalk.com, and I encourage everybody, after this call, to just come to the home page and do a free sign-up. So with a free sign-up, you'll get a locker, you'll get the ability to use the Telestrator, you can start sharing videos, you can upload videos, and from there, what we do, the way that PowerChalk is based, is you get a locker with 10 videos, and you get use of the Telestrator in single screen mode. And then what you can do is you can upgrade for $9.95 a month or $100 a year. And that really is the PowerChalk subscription. So we can talk more about that, but basically that's what I've done. I've logged in. Now I've logged in as Dane Chop. Again, I'm Chaz Henry, but Dane Chop was our flag football coach. And I've done that because I know there's some football coaches on the line. And once you log in, you're brought to this screen, and it's basically the video screen. I'm going to go ahead and click that because that takes you to what is essentially our home page. And now our home page, we've got a lot of different views of videos, but you'll notice that I'm parked on stream. So I'm parked in a folder, if you will, that is my stream. Now what my stream is the activity of the people that I'm following. So we have the concept of following and followers. So in this case, Dane Chop is following Chaz Henry. He's following Mark Felice, and he's following Alan Hoffler. And they have 152 videos, 190 videos, and 31 videos respectively. So what you're going to see is you're going to see the activity of those people. So if I scroll through, you'll see a lot of Chaz Henry because that is the most active. These are in chronological order. Now the other thing you'll see as I look through these videos, this video listing, is you'll see just regular videos. So you'll notice this video here is a 4-second video, and that's just one of my kids, in a baseball game taking looks like taking a called strike, and then here's Anton getting a hit. That's a 5-second video. So those are raw clips. Now you'll also see videos that say Chalk Talk, and Chalk Talk is our vernacular for an analysis. So what I did was I took one of these videos, it looks like that one right there, of Griff pitching. You'll notice on the right side there, that's Griff, and then I've got him compared with Steven Strasburg. So that's a 3-minute and 13-second video that is me doing an analysis of Griff and comparing him to another player. Now, what you'll also notice, I'll go back to the top here. What you'll notice is if I scroll over one of these videos, I can either play that video, and it pops up in a preview window. And this is Aroldis Chapman. Looks like a workout for Chapman. And of course, I can stop that. I can do anything. I can close that window. But what I can also do is when I hover it, I also on the right side get a menu icon. And when I click that menu icon, it gives me choices. I can Chalk Talk analyze. I can get a lesson. I can share this. Now you notice, again, I'm Dane Chop up here in the right-hand corner. I'm Dane Chop. I'm not Chaz Henry. So I've got limited options. Now, but what I'll also show you is if I go into my videos, and these are videos that I have uploaded and that I own, and if I hover one of these videos, I'll get significantly more options. Because now as the owner of this, I can edit its settings, I can transfer ownership to someone else, I can delete it, I can share it on Facebook, I can mark it as a favorite. So that's what this is up top. These are my folders. I've got favorites. Models are videos that PowerChalk is uploading, and we're uploading videos from, if you're the, I don't know if we've got any diving people, online, but if you're the diving coach and you're looking for dive videos, or you're looking for dry land, trampoline training for divers, then, working with some of our partners, USA Baseball, amateur softball out in Oklahoma City, USA Diving, we're filming certain events, and we're putting those up there as model videos. If the golf team is online, there are PGA swings from Greg Grexa, who goes to a lot of these events. He's got a slow-mo camera.
Hola, what's up? How are you? Good. How are you?
So maybe if you could mute.
If
you've got visitors in your office, if you could mute for us.
My mom's back here down here.
So what I've also got is I've I've got a public folder, and that's the activity of everyone who is contributing to the system with public videos. So when you upload a video, you have the choice of marking it public, private, or unlisted. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back again, assuming that I'm Dane Shop here. I'm going to go back to my videos. And what I've also got, so Dane's got 307 videos. And what I've also got, every time you upload a video, you give it a subject, a title, and tags. Okay, and what happens is the subjects become folders. So we basically made the subject line, we were careful when we uploaded to make the subject line the year and the title of the game. So here you see 57 plays from 2011 Irish versus Yellow Jackets. So my son was the Irish, and we played the Yellow Jackets. And now what I can do is I can look. You notice now I'm looking at those 57 videos. All right, so I can scroll down through those videos. And again, on any one of those videos, I can click the menu, and I can say, Chalk Talk this video. And now what happens is it pulls that one clip into the Telestrator. And you notice I'm still in Chrome. So up here, I'm still in the browser. And I can go backwards into other videos. Now, one thing I'll mention is you can right mouse on that video, and you can go straight to My Videos or any of those different folders. So if I want to go back to Stream or I want to go back to My Videos, because remember the default, if I just click the video button, it's going to take me back to Stream. In a lot of cases, where you want to go is My Videos. So you just right mouse that same link there. So now in the Telestrator, what I can do is you notice this is a 391 frame video. So what we did, we just got up in the bleachers and we shot with a little monopod, a little one-legged tripod, and we shot these videos, and we shot. It turns out there's about 60 plays in a flag football game. So what I can do is 3 ways to use the Telestrator. Number one is we used to bring the kids in, and we'd put this on a projector in my office, and we'd cook some popcorn, and we'd have them all sitting on the floor, and we'd literally go in and say, okay, Bob, what's your assignment right here? And we'd make sure that each kid knew what he was supposed to do when the ball was snapped. And we'd kind of go through and ask them, do you know what you're supposed to do? And now the second question is, did you do what you were supposed to do? So then what we can do is we can put this in motion in either play, slow-mo, or super slow-mo. So I'm going to put it in super slow-mo. And I start playing this clip. And then at any point, of course, you can pause it. And then I can take my pencil and I can say now, who's got this guy right here? Whose job is it to block him? Mike, what are you doing? And looks like this is a fullback blast. And who's blocking where? So I can use my pencil. I can draw. I can use my box tool. At any point I can change colors. And I can highlight things in red. I can talk about people's footwork. And of course I can erase the last thing I drew when I hit the erase button, the last thing I drew, or everything I've drawn. So I said 3 ways to use it. One is we're all together and we're looking at this. We really don't record anything. We just make new observations, about particular motions, about the handoff, and I can, roll forward and backward. Number 2 is I can hit this record button and I can record everything that happens, in the big window here. So my new video, as you saw out on my locker, you saw those Chalk Talks. My new video would become a Chalk Talk. And of course I can share that. So I take this 6 or 8 second play and I turn it into a 3-minute video. And then I share that out to my entire team. So it does not record any of the interface over here, it just records the video window. Everything I draw on it and everything I say, because you see the microphone icon down here, even though I'm in a browser, I can plug my microphone up and it records all of my voice annotation as well as my markup. So that's really what you do. You kind of bump this along and you go frame by frame and you say, now right here I see a teachable moment, so I'm going to talk to Joel about this handoff, and I'm going to talk to my halfback about the way he receives the ball, and I'm going to talk to my other fullback about where he should be by now and getting out in front of this play. So again, I would do that, and I hit the record button again. That would stop, and that would create a new video. So I would give that video text, title, and tags, and again, it would become a new video out in my videos. So there you see a Chalk Talk. You see all of these videos, and then you see a Chalk Talk. Now I'm back to the 307 videos found. I'm back to the, the full view of my locker. Now, one thing you can do, let me go back to the Yellow Jackets. So I'll do Irish versus Yellow Jackets. And this is the great thing about a browser, a browser-based system, completely browser-based, is if I want to Chalk Talk this video right here, I'll go ahead and click the menu, but when I get to Chalk Talk Analyze, I'll click my right mouse, and I'll say open this link. It's just like clicking the link, but in a new tab. So you notice up here in the top, it fired up the Telestrator, but it did it in a new tab. So I saved the old tab, which is parked on these 57 videos where it was Irish versus Yellow Jackets. So again, I can do that infinitum. I can, have 6 or 8 tabs going at the same time. Now, back in the Telestrator, I'll show you a couple other things. You've got a line tool, but you've also got in these little tabs at the corner of the lines, you've got different variations on line. So I've got an arrow, I've got a block. So I can say, your job is to block this guy, and of course you want to block this guy. So it's a little block symbol, and I can just toggle through these variations. I've got a pure vertical line, so no matter where my mouse goes, it's only drawing, the vertical movement. And of course I've got a horizontal, and I've got a dash. I've got a regular line, and I've got an arrow. So, I notice a lot of coaches use the arrows. Same thing with oval. I've got oval and circle. The difference is you notice the circle, there's a tick mark in the center. So if I center on this, this guy's head, then it stays centered there. Whereas an oval is drawn corner to corner. You see the tick mark there is corner to corner, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. So that's some of your drawing tools. Path, you can basically take, whether you're following the knob of a baseball bat, you can, as you're running the video, you can follow something through space, and then you notice there's this fit curve down here. I can run a line through it. So I can follow somebody's hips, their hands, the knob of their bat, their belly button, their core, through space. I can do angles. If I click angle, I can say click, 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 give me that angle. But I can also, a lot of times when I'm talking to a batter, baseball is really my, my sport. When I'm talking to a batter, I can also say click, 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 and I can do it without the, I don't want them to be thinking about 137 degrees. I may just want to, say, let me click it again here. I may just want to take a batter and say click, click on his knee, then click on his belt, and then show him his posture. I don't want him fixated on angles, so that's what that is. So let me show you another thing with the Telestrator. We've been working on one single video. And like I said, if you upgrade your account, to $10 a month, then you have the ability to load 2 videos at a time. Now that can be another video from any of these folders, the models, the public videos, my videos, but it can also be diagrams. So right now I'm looking at our diagram feature, and you see we've got bowling, we've got 5 different variations. I'm going to do flag football 7, so the field is not as crowded. So now I have a video in A and I have a video in B, and I can click back and forth between them by just clicking the thumbnail. So I can say, theoretically, what we were trying to do here, guys, is, Bert, you were going to snap to Joel. Joel, you were going to hand off to Mike. And then, again, I've got all of those same tools available. So I can pick my blocking tool, and I can talk about blocking assignments. And I can grab my pencil here and say, the whole idea is to create a hole and, to achieve this. And then I can go back and say, now here's what actually happened. Let me erase. Now the other thing you'll notice is the markup stays with the window. So I have, if you think about it, I've got a clear plastic sheet that I can draw on video A, which I've done, and you notice when I went back over to B, it's got its own clear plastic sheet. So I can go back and forth. I don't get confused about the drawing. So I can erase everything in this window. When I go back to video A, I can erase everything in that window. And now we also have a split screen. So for me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this diagram mode, but what could easily be in this other window is another play from another day. So I could go to my videos, and I could pick a different play, maybe where we ran this play correctly. You notice this little bar in the right-hand corner there. It's loading this video over top of the diagram. So now split screen makes a little more sense. If I stop that one right here, and I get that one to a point, and I stop it, now I can make comparisons between, things that are happening on the left versus things that are happening on the right. So I've kind of focused. Let me show you real quickly. I've kind of focused, on football, and I've focused from a very long view of the camera. Let me also show you, a little more of my world, and that's the baseball world. So if I go to public videos, and I'll look for my quarterback Joel here, was also the pitcher on our baseball team. So there's Joel. So I'm going to load in the right side, a picture of Joel batting. Let me erase my markup here, and I'll just go single screen with that. And now what I can do, again, hopefully this makes a little more sense, say with the path tool, I might path his hands here, and then I'll roll forward, and I'll click again and roll forward and take his hands, through a certain range of motion. And maybe show him that, while his path to the ball was good, he really didn't get any extension here, and he just kind of wrapped around. And, what I'd like to see him do is, my next position with those hands would have been out to here, and then to here, and then start to wrap on around, with a good high finish. So those are the kind of things that, we do, with motion that is right on the player, whether this is diving or golf or baseball. So that's kind of a quick walkthrough. Remember, I've got a tab here that's got my my overall locker. Now, I can also go into this locker, and I can search for Joel. So again, I take my 300 and some videos and I reduce it down to 11, by typing in Joel. And that keyword right there is against whatever I'm already filtered by. So I was already in the Yellow Jacket folder with 57 videos, and now I found videos that have Joel in it. So let me say this. I know a little bit about Huddle. I'm not a Huddle expert. We're focused on our product here. This is not Huddle. And it's not Huddle mostly in the sense that we don't track every play. We don't track results. We don't give you a place where you can say, show me how many running plays we ran last year that lost yardage. There really is no results tracked with this. We don't ask you to encode each play. Ours is more about the teachable moments. This system was actually built, our very first customer was the Cincinnati Reds, and our second customer was the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they use it to this day, and they basically take their iPhones, out onto the practice field, and they film side sessions. They film. We've seen them upload videos of Manny doing rehab work, out in center field, and they have their PT guys, looking at that video and looking at flexibility. So it really is about isolating just small moments and making them teachable moments, and then being able to easily take any of these videos and transfer ownership or share those videos. So I could send this over to Luke, and he could put it in his locker, because every video has exactly one owner. So basically, I can, on this video, if I upload it to the system and I decide later that I want this to be unlisted or I want to change the title, then I just hit the pencil icon and I can, rework all the who, what, when, where of that video and then update it. But that's it. I've got a locker. We encourage, the way that teams typically use this system is we encourage every player to get their own locker. And then what they do is they follow the coach. And the way I do that, I go to people, and I type in a keyword, and I search all the people in the system for that, and then I say I want to follow Luke. So now that I'm following Luke, he's going to be in my stream, and all of his activity if it's public, I'll see in my stream. If it's private, I'll see when I go to videos, I'll see in this privately shared video or folder. So again, we've got stream, we've got my videos, favorites. You know, favorites are for me if I like Tim Lincecum, if I like Steven Strasburg, if I like Jenny Finch, you know, for my pitching model, and if I find a video out there in public, then it's very easy for me to just mark that video as one of my favorites. And now when I'm in, you know, when I'm showing one of my kids, you know, his motion, then it's very easy for me to just pull that favorite up and put them side by side. And then we've got the privately shared. So that's really what it is. It's a, you know, one of our original concepts is imagine if YouTube had a Telestrator. And it really is just a collection of your videos, other videos, people, you know, organized by the owner of that video, and you know, your ability then to get on top of any one of those videos and play it, you know, share it, embed it in a blog, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. Report abuse is basically if you, this is pure sports videos, and if anybody puts anything that's not sports, then you can just report abuse, or if it's, you know, a CBS clip that CBS wants to say that you have no rights to use that, then that's their mechanism for doing that. But what you'll find out in our system is literally 1 million public videos, you know, that you can share. So here's Brant Hill doing an analysis, looks like comparing one of his kids against a major leaguer. So I can watch that video because Brant's made it public. You know, here's Robert Ambrose putting, you know, one of his kids' pitching motion on there. So I can chalk talk, literally, I can chalk talk things that aren't mine. You know, a lot of what we see is, you know, people will find good models, and, you know, they'll start to use those models, you know, for their kids. You know, we found that the best model for a 13-year-old is probably a 15-year-old. It's not Albert Pujols. So that's a quick overview. Questions, coaches?
Hey, Chaz, if you could go over talking a diagram and how they can sort of come up with their own playbook.
Sure. Yeah, let me do that. So in the B video, I'm going to go into B, and again, I'm going to. This is a little rolling menu. As you drag your mouse there, you go into diagrams, and I'll stick with what I know, Luke. I'll go baseball, but as you can see, we've got, you know, full court basketball, we've got half court basketball, we've got bowling, and we've got bowling down to the boards. You know, we've got all the boards painted correctly, so you can talk about the 13th board. We've even had a coach call us and say, "Where's your chess diagram?" We said, "Coach, I can't imagine anyone filming chess and then watching video of it." And he said, "No, you know what I'm looking at. I teach chess fundamentals, and you know what I'm looking to do is say, hey, you know, we all know the object, you know, of chess. Let me pick a better color here, yellow, is to control the center of the board. So to do that, you know, let's say that I moved." Now on these diagrams, you know, like you saw with the halfback and the quarterback and all that, these pieces are movable. Now there's no chess logic in here, but I can move my queen, and then I can talk, you know, about, you know, the rows and the columns that this queen now protects and has access to. You know, so I can do things like that. So literally anything you can think of. And by the way, we can make you a new diagram in just a matter of minutes. So if I load B here, I'm going to go back up to baseball. And what I'll do, and again, I would probably record this. The Cincinnati Reds, one of the things they did with this is they had Freddie Benavides, who speaks Spanish, go in and make the entire Reds playbook in Spanish. And he said, "Okay, guys, let's imagine, you know, we've got runners at first and third. And the ball is magnetic, by the way. That's what you saw there. So the ball is magnetic. When I give it to a player and then I drag the player, the ball comes with him. Okay, so what they did is they said, okay, guys, imagine first and third, and let's say there's 2 outs. And let's say there's a base hit to right in the gap. So again, I've got all my Telestrator tools, and I can draw these lines. And after you draw a line, you'll notice this little curve button pop up. So I can even curve that in and say, okay, now let's talk about what happens. I'm going to change to red here. And, you know, there is a potential play at third, because by the time this ball is hit and hits the gap, this guy has figured out that it's a base hit. He's rounding second. This guy clearly has scored by now, and this guy is probably about to make the turn around first. So, I can talk about this throw, to third. I can talk about a potential throw to second, and I can say, who goes where? Who's my cutoff man? And, where do I want you? Let's say this ball gets a little deeper, and obviously the right fielder made a play on the ball, and the center fielder would have made a play on the ball. So I can, move these guys around, and I can talk about, who goes where. Pitcher's backing up third. Shortstop's playing second. And what I can also do is we've got a text tool that I can go ahead and put text in slots. And you typically want to do this before you start to record. One thing we found out is coaches don't like to type, and they don't like to type on the fly, under pressure. So what we do is we preload these little text slots. And you notice when I hover over number 3 there, it says cut 4 down at the bottom in yellow. So you can use semicolons to create new lines. So all I've got to do is turn the text tool on and then pick which slot that I want to show. So that's what the Reds did. They said, okay, let's talk about a cut 4. Let's talk about the number 1 bunt play. Let's talk about, third base defense. And they did these little scenarios where they've hit the record button, and they may, turn each situation into a 3 to 4 minute video. And like I said, you can use multiple lines. So you can preload this little 9-slot video, and I can say for more about me as a coach, go to PowerChalk.com/Chaz Henry. So that's now in slot 7. So again, all I've got to do is click slot 7, and there's my title. I can make that pop up on the video, and then of course I can just turn it off, when it's appropriate. So that becomes part of your video. Again, if we were recording, if we were, taking this little scenario here and making it a 2 or 3 minute chalk talk, then that all becomes part of the video. So that's diagram. Let's talk about upload. Let's talk about upload real quick. How do you get videos in here? Well, the way that you do it says, hey, you're about to leave the Telestrator. Here's an example of I may actually be recording or doing things I want to save. So that's the only page that has that little warning. So now the way you get videos up here is you come to this page, the upload page, and you put in subject, title, and tags. Now one of the things you can do is when I go to actually add the videos, and I go to my documents, and I'll sort my documents, and I have one that's just full of videos that I call upload samples. They're just different videos that I've collected, through the years, baseball videos, and I can pick, 1 or more of those videos. Here's Aaron Badley hitting a driver. Here's my son pitching at the farm, and I just plop those right in there, and then I can just click upload. Now, if I do that, it's going to say, hey, you need these 3 fields. So the subject, in this case, I've got 2 very different videos, but what I can do is I can say just use the file name. So you notice in here it types base file, and then the title, I'm going to put the same thing in title there. So in other words, I'm going to let it use the name because I've already, classified to a degree these videos. And when they go up in my locker, I want to make sure that, I kind of remember what that video was about. So I can use that, and I can say it's, August of 13. I can put any tags, and maybe I shot, this at McGregor Downs Country Club. Any kind of tags that you want to use to make sure that, this is searchable. So if I search for things that I shot at McGregor Downs, then, that's going to pop up. And now I just click upload. And those files go up to my locker. Now I'm going to have to go delete those because I just realized I'm in Dane Chop's locker here. He's going to say, what in the world? But that's how easy it is to do. So one of the things I do, coaches, is, I go to my videos. I'll pull this in here. And, as you know, if I were to pop an SD card in here, these files would be named, image 02, image 03, image 04. So what I'll do is I'll right mouse those images. I'll play them. And, of course, play would be an option if these were videos. I'll play them. I'll figure out what this is. and then I'll go rename it, and I'll say this is Joel, halfback blast, and of course it would be .mov or it would be .avi, whatever my camera took. And then, when I upload that, I would use the base file name, and that's how we got all of those videos to have the same title or have the same subject, and that's how they put themselves in the same folder. So it's very easy to make things sort, into folders that you want. And then, of course, when I go to my videos, then just like YouTube, there's the videos. There's the one that was called Ian Farm. That's my son pitching at the farm, and here's Aaron Badley. So they just go right into the top of my locker. And now to show you how it is to delete them, I would just say delete. Are you sure? Yes. Because Dane doesn't want those in his football locker. So it deletes that video, and then again, this one I could say Chalk Talk Analyze, and I could just pop it into the Telestrator window. Okay, and to get back, now you can also get to the Telestrator. Now you notice we've been taking videos and we've been telling the system to load that video into the Telestrator. You can also just go straight into the Telestrator. And it's kind of like opening Word without opening it on a particular document. You just come into the Telestrator. So I'm just in the Telestrator, and now I just need to load and I either load a diagram or I load a public video. And again, you can go out there if you're, if you're the golf coach, you can go out there and you can, look for L's. And you get Daniels and you get Nelson. So let me be a little more specific here and say Ernie L's. And now there's Ernie. So there's Ernie face on, and I can load that video. Okay. Questions from there?
Hey Chaz, this is Nick with Women's Soccer. I'm just curious about the amount of footage you can upload and work with in the Telestrator at any given time, like as far as length of time.
Yeah, we don't have any specific run time or limits. We do have an upload limit. So when you get to the upload screen, you're going to see up in the corner that the maximum size for any one file is 200 megabytes. And that's kind of arbitrary. It's admittedly arbitrary, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage people not to film an inning, or not to film, a period in soccer or an entire match. We're trying to find teachable moments. Football actually is just perfect because they blow the whistle so many times, and you end up with nice, 6. I think the longest football play I've ever filmed was about 18 seconds, and you almost have to run backwards, for a while to get an 18-second play. So these are nice bite-sized chunks. As far as your capacity, when you upgrade to this, $100 a year account, you get 500 videos. So we don't really care, if they're 2 seconds or 10 seconds. Then you get 500 slots. But you can also upgrade, in our system. You can buy 500 more slots for $29 a year. So now you've got 1,000 slots.
Okay.
Now what you can also do is your kids, your kids can all have their own locker. So what I've got, I coach Little League Baseball. My kids have their own locker and they've got 10 videos. And the parents will film. If I'll ask them to do a certain drill, I'll say, and put a copy in your locker. And then I can just go out, into the public videos. Or if they're following me, and that's the great thing about following, is they'll be on that list over to the right here, where I go look at my followers. And again, I'm Dane Chop here, not me. But if I were logged in as me and you looked at my followers, you'd see all my kids, and I could go look in Charlie Haynes' locker. So I just click on Charlie Haynes, and there's his videos, and that would be him doing a drill, and then I can pop that drill straight into the Telestrator. So you can gain, literally hundreds of videos, 10 at a time, through your 20 players. and it's all accessible. Actually, there's my picture, Joel, doing some, shooting some video of himself. His father, could shoot that, put it out there for me, and then I could analyze that video. Anything else, coaches? I tell you what, it's a lot to digest at one time. The real trick to this is to, like I said, go out to our very first page. Just go to PowerChalk.com and do a free sign up. And with free sign up, it's going to ask you 6 or 8 questions, and then you get that 10-slot locker, and you get to start uploading. So upload will work then. It'll have somewhere to go, and you can telestrate. You can go to the Telestrator and you can load the video, either a public video. I mean, you can do that even before you've uploaded video. You could go find that same Aaron Badley or Ernie Els. But if you've got videos in there, you go to My Videos, and now all of a sudden you're seeing your videos. Oops, I just reminded myself to delete Aaron Badley there. So let me go to My Videos. But that's really the way to get started. Is just grab a locker and start to play with it, and you'll have more questions and better questions as you start to hack around with it.
Hey Chaz, can you show the other coaches how to share a video that they've either just uploaded or something that Chalk Talked?
Sure. So if I've Chalk Talked this video right here, and if I click the menu and I look at its settings, now it's public, and but I could make it unlisted, and I'll update it. I'll have to fix Dane's locker here when I'm done. So it's now unlisted, and if I now go to share, and again, this is the great thing about getting all your kids to have their own locker and become followers of you, because your followers and following become lists that all I've got to do when I'm sharing this out is share it to Greg, share it to Charlie, and share it to David, and then say boom. Now I'm not going to, because it's going to send them an email, and they're going to say, what in the world is Dane doing sharing this with me 2 years after the fact? But that's how easy it is to click these guys off, share it with Mark, share it with Alan, and you notice Luke is on there now as well. So I'll tell you what I will do. I'll uncheck these guys, and then I'll go back to here and I'll check Luke off, because we made Luke a follower, and I'll share that video. And now what Luke is going to get is a link to the video. We never send the actual video, because whether you're on a Macintosh or a PC or an iPhone or an Android, we don't know until your device connects to us, but once it does, we'll send you the right video. So you can watch this on your Android. So if this link comes in on your Android, we're going to give you a different video than if it came in on your PC. But that's how quickly and easily you share it, is just open up the menu. So again, every video has a play icon and it has a menu icon, and the menu icon dictates the action. Now one thing you'll notice too is when I pulled in this menu, Chalk Talk Analyze is the one we've focused on. But if I go over here and I pull down the menu, there is no Chalk Talk. And the reason is it's already a Chalk Talk. So this is an analysis video. This is just raw footage. And the reason we won't let you Chalk Talk a Chalk Talk is this analysis could very well be me parked on frame 1 and talking for 5 minutes about our setup, talking about our original formation. I never actually rolled the video. So there's no moving pictures here. So it would make no sense to pull it into the Telestrator and then try to re-Chalk Talk it. The only thing you can pull into the Telestrator is a series of frames, that indicate some action. But this is a Chalk Talk. This is a 2-minute and 18-second video. It may be paused for a long period during that. So the system knows it's a Chalk Talk and doesn't give you the Chalk Talk option. But you can also share it out to Facebook, Twitter, send it to YouTube, in just one click.
Chaz, can you describe the difference between public, private, and unlisted?
Sure. So public means it's going to show up in here. So if I designate something as public, then it just is out there for everybody to see. And it means it also, you know, if I type Ian, well, let me do this. My son is Cole. If I type Cole in the public videos, and I keep most of my stuff public. As a Little League baseball coach, it just makes it easier to share. Now, I found 148 videos with Cole, so I'm not, you know, I haven't been specific enough. If I type Cole Henry, then I'm down to 42 videos. So this is my Cole Henry, and here he is shooting basketball. Here he is, you know, baseball, doing a layup, throwing a football. There he is riding his Honda 70. So we've analyzed his motorcycle prowess. But I'm still not seeing what I want. He's not a golfer, but you know, we went to the driving range one day, and I just wanted to show him his swing. So if I type Cole Henry golf, then we got 16 videos. Now it looks like some of these other videos that are not mine. They don't match, but you know, obviously the word golf is in there somewhere. Okay. So again, these are publicly shared. You know, the question is public-private. Now, unlisted, if I were to make any of these videos, now this one I own. Oh, that's right. I'm Dane Chop, so I don't own it. But if I owned it, I would have the pencil on here, and I could make it unlisted. If it's unlisted, it's not going to show up in these indexes. But if I were to send that link to someone, if I were to, you know, just share this out, now I can also share videos that aren't mine. But if I share this and I send it to somebody, they don't need any, you know, PowerChalk account. I mean, I could send it to my grandmother, and she could watch that video. It would be just like sending you a YouTube link. But the difference is you'd never find that link on the site if it was unlisted. So the difference in that and private is if I send you a link to a private video, and that link is going to be specific. I'm going to send that link to Luke Wisnieska. And he would have to be on PowerChalk and logged in as himself to view that link, because that's, you know, that's the way it was sent. That was the restriction that was placed on it. So we've got to ensure, you know, that he is that person before you can watch that link. So one's just publicly available. One's invisible, but it's still, there are really no restrictions on it if you send the link. So if I send that link to an unlisted video to someone and they forward it to someone else, that person could watch it too. Because it's not really private, it's just unlisted. It's like an unlisted phone number. If I give you, and that's the best way to remember how they all work, if I give you someone's unlisted phone number, you can call it. You know, now that you know it, you know, it works if you type it in. Whereas private is truly restricted. Private, you have to be the person who it was shared to, and you have to be logged in as such. So your login up here, you'd have to be, if I shared something to Dane Shop, you'd have to be logged in to see it. Now you see all that stuff. If somebody shares a video, a link to you, then you'll see it under your shared folder. So they're basically saying, I wanted, you know, Luke to have that link, and we make a permanent record of the fact that you shared it out to him by putting it in your shared folder. So that's, you know, that's all the folders, and that's the privileges. Any other questions? Well, with that, what I'd encourage everybody to do, coaches, is just go grab an account, and you know what, I'm glad to get, you know, after you get a week of poking around at it, I'm glad to get back on the phone and answer any, you know, follow-up questions that you might have.
So they can just get on and do their free account. They get a 10 video locker, correct?
Correct. And they'll get use of the Telestrator in single screen mode. So what's going to happen there is, I mean, if you upload a video, you can chalk talk it, and you can watch it in slow-mo. You can do everything. If you hit the record button, you're going to be limited to a 2-minute recording session. You know, it's going to, at a minute 30, there's going to be a, you know, a little warning. It's going to say 30, 29, 28, 27, and it's going to count you down to the 2-minute mark, and then it's going to basically save. It's going to pop up and save. So that's your real restrictions, 10 videos in 2 minutes. And then when you upgrade, you'll get use of the B slot, and your record time will go to 8 minutes. So even with what we call a gold account, even with a gold account, we limit you to 8 minutes. And again, that's somewhat arbitrary, but I think it's arbitrary in the same way Twitter was arbitrary when they picked 140 characters. When we first launched this thing, we had coaches giving half-hour sermons, on really something that could be said in 4 minutes. And what we were trying to do, and I think it's really helped, because I've watched a lot of these videos, that these rec league or even pro level coaches do, and it forces you to be concise, and it forces you to get to the point. Now, having said that, I can take this video right here, I can pull it up. Looks like this is a kickoff. I could say record, and it connects to the cloud, says 3, 2, 1 action, and now I'm recording, and I start to say, now look, what we're looking for here is, there's the ball, and we're going to kick off, we're going to run this way. I want everybody to stay in their lane. It does me no good if everybody converges on the ball, and then the guy reverses field, and I've got nobody covering this side of the field. So if everybody stays in their lane, we're going to have good coverage. When I stop and I give that a title, text, and tags, and I'm not going to, I'm just going to cancel here. But I could pull this same video up again, and now I could talk about something totally different than the lanes. So, the fact that I'm limited to 8 minutes on this one recording is not a big deal, because if I've got a half hour of things to say on this kickoff, I just say it in 4 different videos. And I say, one is lanes, one is footwork, one is pacing, one is, whatever. I just do the video 4 times. So I can keep pulling up this same raw video and making a new Chalk Talk. And maybe on one of them, I reach over and put the diagram, and I do, kind of a theoretical, here's what we should have done, here's what happened. But there really is no limits. We just kind of, put that on there to make you get to the point, and it really does work.
Chaz, one last thing before you're done with the session. Can you real briefly explain what a PowerCast is?
Oh yeah. I said 3 ways, and then I talked about 2. What PowerCast is we've basically built in WebEx. So if I load up a video, and I want to talk to another coach, fellow coach or a player, I'll hit PowerCast, and then I click broadcast my screen, and it starts broadcasting basically everything, kind of the same thing, everything that I draw and do. Now, as far as what I say, we don't have voice over IP built into PowerCast yet. So what we do is we've got to deal with a conference bridge. Oops, hit the wrong button. Beauty of being web-based is you just hit your recycle button. You just recycle the whole window. So if I say broadcast my screen, you'll also notice that I'm given a conference number. While this is not toll-free, these days everybody's got either an unlimited long distance or an unlimited cell phone. So we all dial this number. Let's say there's 3 of us on the call, and we put in this access code. This access code is unique to each coach. So every coach gets assigned an access code, and that's unique to him. And one thing that I'm not even shy about telling people, it doesn't even have to be used during PowerChalk. You could do this to just hold a voice conference anytime. You dial this number and use this code, and it's unique to you. So that's the way everybody bridges their voice in. But what my student would do is he would say PowerCast watch. I say broadcast, he says watch, and then we connect through the internet, and he sees my entire screen. So I've used this with dads, showing them a pitching motion, something I spotted about their pitching motion, or a hitting stroke. And it's just a way for me to share my screen, and it's not recorded. Turns out the Dodgers use this a ton. I was looking in the locker at one of the Dodgers when they first started using it, and I said, Alex, I need to teach you how to use the Telestrator. I see hundreds of videos uploaded into your account, but I don't see a single Chalk Talk. And he said, oh, Chaz, I never record anything. I said, well, why wouldn't you record? And he said, well, that puts me on record. You know, and then somebody will say, oh, that guy didn't know what he's doing. He told me to take my hands this way or my elbow this way. And he said, all that is situational. You know, there's no absolutes. So he said, I really don't want to go on record. You know, I'd rather just talk to somebody, tell them something, and then later I could say, I didn't say that. So it's kind of funny, but that's, you know, he just preferred to give it as a live broadcast, you know, either in person or with a PowerCast, as opposed to, you know, putting it on record for years and years for somebody to disagree with. So it is, but it's a nice way to, you know, give someone a lesson and have it be interactive. You know, obviously these videos in my locker, if I make a Chalk Talk and I send it to you, well, you can maybe talk to me at practice and say, Coach, did you mean this or did you mean that? But there's, you know, there's no two-way interaction in this Chalk Talk right here. So yeah, that's the third way, is that I broadcast my screen, and you, whether you're in your dorm or your, you know, or your home, can interact with me as we look at your video.
Chaz, I don't have any other questions. I don't know if any of the other coaches have any questions. I just want to say thanks for your time and thanks for doing this for us today.
Well, absolutely. I'm glad to do it, guys. Like I said, get on there, you know, get an account, and start kicking the tires, and I'm glad to get back online, and we'll go from there.
That sounds great. Good luck with your son on our way to Chapel Hill.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chaz.
Bye-bye.